In the past couple of years, several million of you have bought camcorders. They come in all sizes, formats, and price ranges, but the thing to remember is basically all are flexible and easy to operate. Now an amateur can achieve results that look like the work of yesterday's professional million-dollar studio. Your camcorder can provide not only priceless memories, but the pride and fun of producing top-quality videos. You'll learn from award-winning camcorder experts whose work you may have seen on local and network television. Our instructors for this video have won dozens of local, regional, and national awards for television excellence. We'll show you how to achieve good lighting, sharp images, clean audio, and interesting composition. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced videographer, we'll show you exciting new ways to use your camcorder. You'll learn how to think like a director, how to make scenes flow together with mood and impact. That's a lot of material to cover, so let's get started. Jeff Freeman is one of the most respected photographers in all of television, but he's also known as an outstanding teacher. Let's begin with a demonstration of some of the important features you'll probably find on your unit and how to get the most out of them.
The points we'll be covering apply to most camcorders, but there are so many different models and formats out there that you'll have to consult your owner's manual for more specific information. In fact, it's a good idea to keep your owner's manual with your camcorder as a handy reference. Let's start by going over some of the controls on a typical camcorder. These will vary from one model to the next because many have very sophisticated features that require their own particular operation and control layout. To learn the operation and take full advantage of your camcorder's potential, you'll need to understand how each function operates. They call it a camcorder because this one-piece unit is both the camera and the recorder. Today's home video equipment is not only small and light, but extremely easy to use. Almost everything is automatic. All you have to do for most scenes is just point and shoot. To know what you're pointing at, you use the viewfinder. What you see is what you get. On full-size models, the viewfinder sits up here, so that when the camcorder is balanced on your shoulder, it's at eye level. These viewfinders also rotate, and that's a big help when you're doing low-angle shots. On compact models, the unit is so small, the viewfinder is here in the back. Most viewfinders are electronic, so you can use them as a monitor and look at what you've just shot. Viewfinders are black and white, so don't panic and think you've lost your color. You'll get used to it. This is an all-purpose zoom lens. It's so versatile you don't need to keep changing lenses like you do on a still camera. It's called a zoom lens because it allows you to zoom in or zoom out. Most of today's camcorders come equipped with a power zoom. You use this rocker switch to move in or out. On many models, it also controls the speed of the zoom. Almost every camcorder has an automatic focusing system. You need to know how it works in order to understand its limitations. Most of them send out an infrared beam from this sensor under the lens. The beam hits whatever you're pointing at in the center of your viewfinder and is reflected back to determine the distance. It automatically adjusts the focus ring. During the shot, if the subject moves closer or further away, the camera automatically compensates.
Most of the time, this works fine. You may run into problems, though, when you try to place your subjects to one side of the frame with a distant background in the center of the picture. Remember, it focuses on the center. If you have an autofocus override, it's easy to overcome these problems. Just switch to manual to control the focus ring.
Here's another quick tip. If your automatic focus goes haywire occasionally, look around for other infrared devices, such as a television set remote control or a garage door opener. Another automatic feature on most camcorders is the exposure. The camcorder sends out a signal that measures the brightness of what you're shooting.
It opens up the iris to emit more light or closes it down to reduce the amount of light.
This usually works fine, but just like the autofocus, there are times when it causes problems. We'll be covering those problems and their solutions in much more detail later on in our special chapter on lighting.
Some camcorders have a switch that controls recording speed. Most full-size VHS units will record only in the SP standard play mode. That's the fastest speed and gives you the sharpest, clearest picture.
But if you have one of these compact models that uses the miniature cassette, it may give you a choice between SP and the slower EP extended play.
I suggest you keep it on the fast SP mode. By the way, you don't have to worry about the speed when you play it back at home. Your VCR will automatically play it back at the right speed.
One of the most important basics is the way you hold your camcorder. The object is to hold it steady. If you have a full-size model like this one, balance it comfortably on your shoulder. You'll need both hands for the controls and to help balance it. Remember all the various sensors we talked about here on the front of the camera? Make sure you don't block them during your shot. If you have a compact unit, you hold it out in front of you like this. This isn't quite as steady as holding it on your shoulder. It's kind of more like a still camera, but that's part of the trade-off for the smaller size.
The first thing we want to do is look through the viewfinder and make sure the picture is level. The least little bit of frame tilt is so distracting it will ruin your shot. Every movement the camera makes is greatly exaggerated on tape. Even a little bit of wobble is distracting, so we want to hold it as steady as possible. Practice using the controls, like the standby switch and the zoom, without jiggling the camera.
Balance is important for controlling body sway and helping to hold the camcorder steady. Keep your feet spread slightly apart for better balance.
Notice my elbows. I keep them tucked in and braced against my body. You have a little more latitude with camera movement on wide shots. It's not quite so noticeable, but if you're zoomed in tight, it's especially critical because everything is magnified.
The average shot lasts 5 to 7 seconds, so you can hold your breath to reduce body movement. Practice, and if you're still having trouble holding it steady, or you're doing a lot of telephoto shots, consider buying a tripod or a monopod.
This is a lightweight aluminum tripod with telescopic legs that don't take up much space.
I recommend a fluid head. Make sure it swings nice and smoothly. If you don't have a tripod, use any type of support that's available. A chair makes a good arm support.
You can use a tree, any kind of a post, or even a car. Fences can be ideal. A homemade sandbag works well as a camera support. If you're zoomed in on a long shot and nothing else is available, use your own body for support. Brace your elbows on your legs. If you think about it, stick a knee pad in your camera case.
We're finally ready to start shooting, so let's put a cassette into the recorder. Okay, we're ready to try some practice shots, so I'll turn on the main power switch and also put it in the record mode. Now we're in the standby or pause mode. That means the tape is threaded, the heads are in motion, and the camera and viewfinder are turned on.
When we start shooting, we'll be pressing this switch to start the tape rolling. There's no need to hold it down. Just press it once. On some units, this switch is here by your right hand and you press it with your thumb. On others, it's on the opposite side and you use your finger.
When we're through with the shot, we'll press the same button again. This will automatically cue up the tape for the next shot and put it back in standby. Okay, let's roll some tape.
That ought to do it. I'll push the stop button.
Now the camcorder is in standby, automatically cued, and it's ready for its next shot. But if we need to change locations, or it's going to be several minutes before the next shot, we'll use the main power switch to turn it off. It will vary according to how you use it, but a 2-hour battery will usually last you about an hour and 15 minutes of actual record time. We've covered most of the basics, so now it's time to go out and start having some fun with your new equipment. Tape some practice shots. Become more familiar with operating your camera and work on holding it steady. But you'll discover there's a lot more to good photography than just operating it. The one automatic feature you won't find on your camcorder is a creative button.
This control ought to have a label on it that says fun. It really says power zoom, but they're the same thing. Unlike still photography, camcorders allow you to move during the shot. Now, this opens the way for some exciting elements such as zooms, pans, and tilts. Yet camera movement is vastly overused by most amateurs. A friend of mine who recently bought a camcorder brought me one of his first tapes to critique. With permission, but without comment, I'd like to show you part of it. Obviously, the photographer was having more fun than the viewers. That's why there's an old rule. Move the camera between scenes, not during. There's another old rule. Only use pans and zooms to follow a moving object. And yet, if you watch the movies closely, you'll notice there are effective uses for camera movement. Obviously, the secret is in knowing how to use it and when. Rhett Lawrence is known as one of the most creative photographers around, and he's perfect for this assignment.
There are times when a camera move is necessary, and there are other times when a nice pan or zoom simply might enhance your shot. But first, let's discuss how to do a move smoothly so that we don't confuse our viewers or even give them motion sickness. One thing apparent in the video Michael just showed you is how zooms and pans can lose their effectiveness if they're used too often. I'm sure you also noticed how they were herky-jerky and way too fast. But give the photographer a break. Being able to do smooth pans and zooms takes a lot of practice. And if you're going to shoot some tape that you're going to want to keep, try a dress rehearsal. It's almost like a practice swing in golf. And like in golf, footwork is really important. For instance, I'm going to start a shot here, and I'm going to end it way over there. Now, if I'm off balance, my camera shot's going to be shaky, and I might even fall over. I start out with one foot behind the other in the direction of the pan. This allows me to pan at about a 45 to a 90-degree angle from the direction of my feet. And I end up facing the direction my feet are pointed in. Now, let's try that again, except this time I want you to watch not only my feet, but my body and my arms. I've got my elbows tucked in tight, and I move my entire body as one unit. And that's for maximum steadiness. Now, if I have the luxury of using a tripod, the first thing that I do is adjust it so that it's at a comfortable level. Then I have to keep from getting my legs tangled up in the tripod. I do that by straddling one leg of the tripod, and that allows me to get closer to my camera. We'll start with occasions when you have to pan to follow a moving object. On this type of shot, try to lead the subject so there's more empty space in front than there is behind. Now, if I want to show him taking another pass by here, at the end of the shot, I'll let him go out of frame. See what a smooth transition that makes? Once again, at the end of the pan, we'll let the subject move out of the frame for a smooth cut to the next scene. Here are some more examples of following moving objects. Let's try something that most purists say is a no-no. We're going to pan a static object. The point is, you should have a reason for panning. There's no particular reason for a pan here. In this case, if we use cuts instead of a pan, this is how it would look. Here, cuts have a lot more impact. But there are times when you definitely need a pan. A pan can show relationship or location. This shows that the boats are a short distance from the marina, and the marina is real close to downtown. A pan can indicate size. Now we discover it's a huge marina, almost a mile long. There's no way static shots could show this immensity. Remember not to pan too fast. Do it so that it's comfortable for the eye to follow. Slowly enough to show all the details. At the end of the pan, let the camera stop for 2 or 3 seconds before you squeeze the pause button. Start and stop with an establishing shot because it makes a poor transition to cut from a moving shot. There's also a vertical version of a pan, which is known as a tilt. First, establish your shot, and then tilt up or down. This is a building with a very ornate edifice that would be up and out of the frame if we were photographing the people in front. So let's start on the carving and slowly tilt down, winding up with a static shot of the people. This is a tall, majestic star pine. Perfectly symmetrical. You'll have to take my word for it on this shot. You'd have to back way up to get it all in the picture. And then the person standing under it would be way too small. But there is a way. You simply tilt the camera up. Let's shoot some zooms. We'll be using a power zoom controlled by this rocker switch. Remember to keep the speed constant, and don't rush it. This is a good spot for a zoom in, to establish a setting or an environment. That little koala bear back there on the pole will hardly show up in the picture otherwise. First, we open with a wide shot. Now, we squeeze the zoom control and slowly move in. He's filling up the frame, so I'll gently lift my finger off the zoom control. Let's see how it would look if we used cuts instead of a zoom. Again, we start off with a wide shot. Then, a close-up. The zoom was effective because it showed how tiny the koala was as compared to his surroundings, and it also showed him hiding from all those people. Zoom outs can reveal or provide suspense. We'll start in tight on this huge lion. Is he dangerous? Does he like to munch on photographers? No, as we pull out, you can see there's a wall around him, and the lion's in a zoo. So, are there any hard and fast rules about when, where, or why to pan, zoom, or tilt? Not really. Just use your own judgment and creativity. I'd suggest that you first think about how it might look if you move the camera between scenes. That is, shoot a scene, put your camera in pause, and move to your next shot. Usually, cuts are more effective than pans or zooms. But after all, you are using a video camera, not a still camera, so if you have a reason for moving the camera during a shot, go for it!
A camera lens is like a human eye. Each has an iris to control the amount of light which enters. When the lens is pointed at something bright, the iris closes down to reduce the amount of light which enters. But when the image is dim, it opens wide. Most modern camcorders have an automatic iris control which adjusts your exposure. Most also have the ability to shoot pictures at amazingly low light levels. If all you want is a picture, all you usually have to do is point and shoot. But if you want a really good picture, you need to know how to use existing light and how to add light when necessary. Adam Clare is an excellent photographer and an expert on lighting.
Some camcorders are so sensitive, they can give you a picture with the light of only a single candle. But there's a big difference between just settling for an image and going for good color and sharp definition. If you merely want an image, this might be what you get. But a slight adjustment would give you a much sharper image. If you're satisfied with an image, this will do. But if you want a sharper picture with nice color, try this. The difference between those shots was dramatic, yet it took very little effort or expertise to make the improvement. Let's start with outdoor natural light. No problems when it's hazy or even overcast. Everything usually comes out nice and even, and facial features look softer and more natural. But bright sunlight causes a lot of problems. The first thing to remember is to keep the light on the subject, not on the camera lens. If you can't get the sun directly behind the camera, at least try to shoot at a 45-degree angle. If you have the light behind the subject, it's known as backlighting, and this is usually the result. The automatic iris adjusts for the bright light coming from behind, and the subject is underexposed. If you can't change the angle and you're stuck with the shot, you have a couple of solutions. If your camcorder has a backlighting switch, use it. This overrides the automatic setting and opens the iris at least one stop more. It will wash out the background, but your subject will be better exposed. Or, if your camera has an override, you can put the iris on manual and expose for the subject and not the background. Reflections from any bright background, snow, sand, water, a white wall, will close down the automatic iris and underexpose your subject. The automatic iris will throw you off if you're standing in a bright area shooting into a darker area. Mixed sun and shade is a bad combination. Objects in the sun are overexposed, and those in the shade are underexposed. The simplest solution to all these problem areas is to either move the people or move the camera. Otherwise, use your backlight compensator or switch to manual. There's also a third solution to backlighting problems, and that's to add more light to the front of a subject. This is called a reflector. We're reflecting the sunlight so that the subject is just as bright as the background. A piece of white poster board or cardboard covered with aluminum foil works just fine. With indoor photography, you have to first decide whether you can get a good picture from available light. As advanced as the new camcorders are, adequate illumination is still necessary for a good picture. The amount of light needed will vary from one camcorder to the next. So it's a good idea to take some sample shots to determine the range of your own unit. If your viewfinder flashes a warning that you need more light, start by opening the curtains. Look at the difference. And if it's a dull day, try turning on the light. Try moving the lamps closer. If a lamp's not in the scene that you're shooting, you can pull off the shade. Shooting indoors doesn't have to be complicated or require exotic, expensive equipment. However, indoors or out, remember to avoid backlighting and keep the light on the subject, not on the camera lens. As you become more experienced in using your camcorder, you may decide you want to invest in some lighting equipment and do more shooting indoors. Auxiliary lights will give you great flexibility. They range all the way from a simple quartz lamp that mounts on top of your camcorder to floodlights and spotlights that would light a stadium. If you use the small camera-mounted light, try to get one with a maneuverable head. That gives you an option. You can point it directly at your subjects, which gives a sense of immediacy and excitement, like a news broadcast. Or with a movable head, you can bounce the light off the ceiling or a wall. This provides diffuse lighting that is less harsh and more flattering. It gives you a softer look, comparable to the effect we saw from reflector boards, which are also used indoors. Photographers spend a lot of time learning to use light effectively. Your advantage is in working with video. It allows you to review your work immediately. If you're not satisfied with the look, make some changes and reshoot then and there. In other words, experiment. Lighting is both an art and a science. The more you learn about it, the better your videos and your family will look.
We've gone through the basics of lighting, camera moves, and how to operate the camcorder. Now let's put it all together. Most of us, at one time or another, have had to suffer through boring home videos that seem jarring, pointless, and insufferably long. The difference between that and smooth, crisp, interesting video is in thinking like a director when you shoot. Jeff Freeman is well known as not only an excellent photographer, but also a superb director. He'll help you achieve that professional look.
Almost everything is automatic on today's camcorder. The camcorder does a lot of your thinking for you. Often you can simply point and shoot, but shooting at random is guaranteed to produce dull, boring video. While you may not need to think as much about the mechanics like exposure and focus, you do need to plan ahead. Think about the way you want your video to look and what you want it to say. Every video should tell a story with an open, a middle, and a close. Let's take something as simple as a day at the beach. The opening is your arrival, a broad view of the beach, finding a spot for the beach towels, and getting out of your street clothes. The middle of the story is what you do at the beach. You play in the surf, put on some suntan lotion, catch some sun, run barefoot in the sand, do a little people watching, and share a picnic lunch. And the end of the story is the end of your day at the beach. You check out the damage, pack everything up, and take a farewell look as you head for the car. Let's review some of the shots we've just seen, because that's part of how you tell the story.
We opened with a long shot, also known as a wide shot or an establishing shot. This shows where the story will be taking place. Then, we went to some medium shots to show part of the action and to give the viewer further information and some detail. Whether you're shooting a television movie or a home movie, this is usually the way the story unfolds. Finally, we cut in some close-ups to concentrate on the action and to get a more dramatic look at the people involved. The wide, medium, and tight shot formula creates a flow, a gradual introduction for the viewer. There are effective variations of the theme, but probably 90% of your videos will look best if you follow this sequence. By mixing long, medium, and close-up shots, you can orient your viewers to the desired action. Remember, wide and medium shots establish the setting and show the action. Close-ups are better able to capture emotions. Extreme close-ups with a face and a forehead filling the screen create highly dramatic moods. Let's talk about camera angles, something else to think about. Most times you'll be shooting straight on. The design of the camera encourages this, but changing the angle sometimes gives you a better perspective and can create a variety of moods and effects. There are times when climbing a ladder or a rock, even getting on top of your car will give you a high angle that shows the action better. Most sports events would be pretty confusing if they were shot from ground level.
With sports, you should usually look for an angle that shows the action without requiring a lot of camera movement.